3-0 win for England over Senegal. Carl, what did you make of it?
I thought this was the most comprehensive performance England have had in around the 16 games since, me and producer Charlie tried racking our brains to find a better round of 16 performance, and we landed on 2002 against Denmark.
What the Germany game in the Euros? What was that? The quarterfinals?
That was the quarterfinals. I think in a World Cup, that's the most in control England have been. This is what Southgate does. This is sufferball football, where you sacrifice a bit of attacking endeavour for defensive solidity, and while you are not always totally sure England are going to win games, you are reasonably confident that he's not going to lose a game in 90 minutes. So Southgate now is the best head coach England, or has got the most victories of an England head coach at international tournaments. 14 of the 15 victories in knockout games in international tournaments, Gareth Southgate is now responsible for 6 of them. He is very good at international tournament football, especially in knockout football. You can argue whether or not there are managers in this World Cup who are better than him at that. But at this job, it might not be the most entertaining, but you don't necessarily win these sorts of games by being massively entertaining.
All right, although, were you not entertained? Lynsey, were you not entertained?
For the first 35 minutes, I was concerned, and what was going through everybody else's mind was going through mine, which was against France. I think they would have punished us by that 35-minute mark. It was too slow. It was too methodical from England. So, although I don't want to just dwell on the negatives, because of course it turned into a fantastic performance, I do want to say that when it comes to being pedestrian, that is something that you just won't get away with France, not when they've got the pace of Mbappe. And also, I think with France, they've got England's number more than Senegal have. They played each other more times. They know each other from European competitions as well in terms of squad versus squad. So that's something to be really wary of. I also thought that certain players, they were trying to be more forward thinking, but the only players that were really pulling it off were Jude Bellingham, who I thought was a shining star from the start, and I would say Harry Kane. I do think that Jordan Henderson, when the game first started, he was in a more advanced position and he was closing things down. And I did think that he ended up having a brilliant game overall, but he had a few patches where he went missing for a little bit. But I did like the fact that he was squeezing up to start, because he along with Kane and Bellingham, were the only ones that had drive and determination. And I don't want to criticise Maguire too much, but his passing was off. It definitely was off in the first 20, 30 minutes. And he was trying to look forward, but it put England in danger. And I hope that they watch that back, because against France in particular, I think they would make us pay.
I think international tournament football, when it becomes single elimination, it becomes less, are you the best team across that 90 minutes from minute 1 to minute 90, and becomes more, can you just get it done? Can you be slightly better than your opposition by minute 90? And everyone keeps talking about England were not good until minute 35. And minute 35 is when Bellingham has that little bit of drive.
Well, I think one of the other key questions, and this is something that came up the other night with the US against the Netherlands, is can you take your chances? And if we look at the first 35 minutes, yes, Senegal had opportunities, but one England player did outstandingly, Jordan Pickford, with that incredible save on Boulaye. And then England did take their chances. And let's talk about the goals, because that extraordinary opening goal from Henderson, becoming the second oldest England goal scorer ever. Here's a stat for you. 23% of all of England's World Cup goals ever have come under the stewardship of Gareth Southgate.
He might be good at this.
Well,
this is the strange thing, and obviously the conversation has been Southgate has been a dour, pragmatic coach, which I think is a bit of a misnomer, because pragmatism doesn't necessarily mean you're playing defensive football or conservative football. It just means realistic application of your tools.
But anyway.
And Southgate, maximizes, clean sheets are very important. First ball forward when you win the ball, maximize your set pieces. And I think the big difference between this England team at this World Cup compared to the Euros and the 2018 in Russia is just how much better they are with that final ball in the final third. They are, I think, 3 goals out of 4 shots on target against Senegal. They're a lot better at making the correct decisions when push comes to shove.
Nice.
And at a time where Southgate would prefer you to only really have 3 or 4 shots on goal and kill off 25 minutes of a game, that's really important.
Okay. He turns you on again. Lynsey, how are you feeling?
Oh, I love him. I've always been in the camp of loving him ever since Russia. But I also agree that sometimes he does seem to have favourites. And that was something at the very beginning that we were promised that wouldn't happen. It would be picked on form. So that's the only little chink. But that always is going to happen with any England manager. They end up having the players that they can trust and rely on. So you get it. I do think we've obviously already had Ben White that's gone home for personal reasons. Now Raheem Sterling is another one who's had to go home. And it looks like he might not be back in Doha anytime soon. So I think there's two ways you can look at that. I think in the commentary as we were watching back here, I think it was relayed as that's trust from Gareth, and he shows that he's got that sentimental side and that he'll let people leave the camp if they need to and understand extenuating circumstances, which I think is clear, certainly in one of those that we know of. But also that means that they're short. We've talked about squad depth. We've now got 2 players that aren't there. So I would like him to address that. I'm really keen to see what he says in the post-match press conference about that, because I do think squad depth is important. And I also hope that he's not afraid to learn from the way that these first 2 goals came about against Senegal. It was from being more direct. It was from a long ball. It was from not playing out at the back as much. So I think he's the sort of manager that does do that. He looks back and then he doesn't get too rigid. And I think against France, you're going to have to be brave.
Hello there. If you've enjoyed this video, why not subscribe to this channel? And if you'd like more Totally Football Show content, then just search for us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Not an Athletic subscriber yet? Then just head to theathletic.com/totally to find out our latest entry offer.